Okay, we're coming up. Hello, hello, and welcome. We are live again for our Father's Day presentation. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. As you can see, we have a few more people here, and we are so excited to be here with you all. I'm just adjusting my screens because, of course, my computer is acting up. Thank you all for coming. We're so excited to be here. We're doing our Father's Day panel. As you know, Father's Day was last weekend. And today, what we're doing is acknowledging some great fathers. We're going to hear their stories and what it is that they have, or they do, or they've done within their fatherhood experiences. They share some experiences with us and with you all. Before we get into that, I wanted to again just introduce our panel. We have with us who you've normally seen with us. We have Sheri, we have Francina, and we have Gail and myself, Phoenix. Today, we are making an addition, an official addition. She has been around with us for quite some time. And actually, when Kaylin and I had a conversation recently, I was just talking to her and we were talking about how long we've known each other. It's been at least 10 years. When I started Phoenix Fitness, she helped me with teaching classes when she moved here from Nebraska. So very excited to have her here now on this panel. So she is going to take some time to introduce herself so that you know who she is and what aspect of her field she's bringing to the table.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to officially be here. I've been lurking in the background and I'm really excited about being a part of such a wonderful addition to the fitness and wellness field. Myself, I have a lot of experience in fitness and sports, and that will be the area that you'll find my expertise in mostly here. I was a track and field athlete for the majority of my life through college, a 200, 400 meter runner. And now I have the pleasure of coaching. I work as a fitness leader in personal training, group X, track and field, and basketball coaching. I have my master's in sports psychology, and I enjoy utilizing the skills that are often reserved for athletes with the general population to help them attain their health goals as well.
Thank you, Kaylin. We call her Coach Kaylin. Does anyone have any questions for Kaylin? No? Okay, then we're going to go on. Okay, so as you know, what we start with first, before I introduce our panel of fathers, we're going to go into our tea time session. So we'll start with our first story, and they're going to put that up on the screen for you. Now we open this up for discussion. It's usually something riveting. The title is already a lot. Man wonders if he is wrong for refusing to adopt a child his wife conceived during an affair. Okay, so let me just give you the kind of basic details. And if you could scroll down a little bit for me on this. Scroll a little more. On the continue reading, can you click on that? Perfect, because I'm going to reference something a little bit later. So we have a 26-year-old wife and a 27-year-old husband. The wife had a one-night stand. She was drunk and ended up getting pregnant. So they went through couples therapy, and at first they were going back and forth about maybe getting a divorce, but then decided through counseling that they were going to stay together. So the husband said he was okay to take a step-parent role, but wasn't willing to fully be the child's dad. They had a little boy. So he would not adopt, but would raise the child and send him off to college. He wanted to be that quote, unquote, fun uncle. Okay, that's what he said. So the wife agreed. She became a stay-at-home mom, and now the child is 5, and she's had a change of heart, and he has not, obviously. So he's like, "This is what I agreed to." He's already even said that he has an issue, of course, with what happened, with the details of it, and he's trying not to take that out on the child. So he's still going to therapy just to deal with the idea that the child is here. So this is the question, whether or not he's right or wrong, or if he's wrong to think that he should not have to adopt the child. So we're going to start off with the ladies, and we'll start with Sheri. Can't hear you, Sheri.
I think he should have extracted himself from the situation from the get-go, as opposed to getting involved now 5 years into it, because then that's just confusing. Because if he's going to have the same feeling and not change it, then it should not have gone that far. And I think it's bad for everyone involved. They should not have come to that agreement in the first place, and especially since the wife had a change of heart. He was already not vested in it, so he should not have continued with it, in my opinion. He should have gotten out of it if he's going to feel that way. It's not good for himself or the child, and he's still going through therapy for it. No.
Agree. I'm next, correct? Completely agree with Sheri. I have a blended family myself. I had one child. My husband had one child, and then we have one together now. And we've been married for 34 years. And children are nothing to play with. If he wasn't all in the beginning, this whole uncle thing, calling him uncle, him wanting just to play video games with the kid, no. I think it was a selfish act on both of their parts. And Sheri is 100% correct, in my opinion, that he should have extracted himself from that situation immediately.
Yeah. Thirdly, I'm just a firm believer in like that time span is like you can't take it back from 0 to 6. So it's really not fair to the child. It's not fair to the husband. I'm not really sure what it states about the actual father. Maybe I missed that. But that totally like is not his responsibility to do that. And he can't take back that time. So that really is an unfortunate situation, especially for the kid. I feel like the kids, he's accepted this imagery, so it's definitely going to be hard for him to adapt moving forward. So.
And Kaylin, sorry, we're rotating you in.
Thank you. I was speaking to myself on mute, by the way. When I hear stories like this, my heart breaks. My heart breaks for many reasons, but the biggest reason is I grew up in foster care. I see this from the perspective of the child that will, through no fault of their own, have to live with the types of connections or anxiety and or feelings of not being wanted that can come from a situation like this. I believe that the not adopted dad should he was never going to want to change his opinion on this, but sometimes women, we agree to something just because we think if we can keep him, we'll keep him close, that maybe he'll change his mind. And that usually fails to actually work out in the long run. I think that at this point, if they're not going to move together forward as a family, then this is where you call it quits and you say, okay, well then what is the next best thing for this child to keep this situation from advancing into something that could be irreversible damage.
Right. Okay. So we have the pleasure of having the guys here. I told them that I was going to loop them in. So just wanting to get the father's opinions as well on this. So we'll start with you, Masudi, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so this is a very interesting story. I pretty much I agree with all the ladies. First, they need more therapy. I don't think they've dealt with that enough. And really, I think that the gentleman who is now quote unquote playing uncle, he really needed to make a decision whether he was going to stay, forgive the person he was with, or not forgive her. And if you're going to forgive her, then he needs to be all in. Means you can't decide that you want to play uncle in this type of situation. So in this regard, he could have left a long time ago, right? He could have continued to seek therapy to kind of deal with it, but could have left a long time ago. And that might even been a better choice versus this kind of this in-between place. Because at the end of the day, the only person that's being hurt is the child.
Thank you for that. What do you think, Mo? We'll go now to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I really feel that this is an unfortunate situation, and gosh, I'm a firm believer of not lying to the kids, and I feel if you have to go into this role of lying, then you shouldn't be there.
I think that's a good point about not lying to kids. I think that's a great thing to say.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Mo.
And what do you think, Soji?
What's going on, everybody? How's everyone doing? I'm super excited to be a part of this panel. Can everybody hear me too?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm also going to say, I think if he wasn't in it 100% from the beginning, I think you're just once again doing a massive disservice to that child. And, as a lot of people have said it before, that's like irreparable damage in that beginning phase. And, that's a prime time shaping area of a kid's life. And I really think unless you're going to be full on dad, the kid doesn't need another fun uncle. You get that anywhere, but those, as I said, like that partnership and how he's seeing the relationships build in his house, that's how he's going to kind of move into his life. Him or her is going to move in and operate with how they deal with relationships as well going forward. So, he sees the guy lying and kind of playing that role and kind of hands off, like that's the role model figure he or she is going to like replicate. So I think unless you're all the way in, you got to be all the way out and just kind of cut ties.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and I think that the overall consensus is the same. And it is unfortunate for the child, especially since that child is, any child, but the child is only 5 years old, for them to have not really thought that out more along the lines for the child than for themselves is quite selfish, as Gail had mentioned. So, okay, we're going to go now to our second tea time story. And gentlemen, I know that I had mentioned the stories that I was going to have, but this came up during the week. And so this one's a surprise. I saw this twice posted. And so I thought it would be an interesting thing to bring up. Everybody, we're on mute. So I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna ask everybody 3 questions, okay? And then you just answer a yes or no, and then we'll elaborate on that after. But I feel like this is probably going to be a pretty charged conversation, so we'll see where it goes after I read it. So I'm gonna read it the best way that I can with how she wrote it. So, damn, this man ghosted his fiance on their wedding day because she had a bachelorette party, and a video was sent to him from her sister of the male stripper having chocolate drip off his private part into her mouth. LOL. So, Sheri, this is your cue. She wore these pearls for this. She's clutching her pearls.
I am clutching my pearls. First of all.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
We're just answering the questions, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna go in everybody, and so that everybody gets a chance to answer these questions. This is the questions that I want you to answer. There's 3 people involved in this, right? There's the sister, there's the boyfriend, and there's the girlfriend. All I want to know is whether or not you think each person is wrong. It's a yes or a no. We'll go into explanations in a second. I'm just going to go to each person. Yes or no, do you think the sister, the boyfriend, and the girlfriend were wrong? All of them could be wrong. None of them could be wrong. Sheri.
In the order? Sister, boyfriend, and bride to be.
Yes. So
Yes. Sister.
sister, yes or no?
Sister, yes.
Boyfriend,
Yes.
girlfriend,
Not really.
yes or no?
No.
Okay. So we're gonna go in between. I'm going from girl to guy. So I'm gonna go now to Masudi. Dr. Stolard, what do you think?
I think
Sister.
the sister is wrong. The boyfriend, I don't think he is wrong. And who was the bride to be? Yes,
Yes.
she's wrong.
Okay. We'll go now to Gail. Sister,
Yes.
boyfriend,
Yes.
girlfriend.
No.
Okay, we'll go now to Mo. Sister,
Yes.
boyfriend,
Yes.
girlfriend.
No.
Okay. We'll go now to Cyna. Sister,
Yes.
boyfriend,
No.
girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay, Soji. Sister,
Yes.
boyfriend,
No. My man would have packed it.
girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay, Kaylin. Sister,
Yes.
boyfriend,
Yes.
girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to try to keep this as organized as possible, okay? Who I want to start with, because I wrote everybody's answers down. The only people that said that they thought that the boyfriend, we had 3, that the boyfriend was not wrong were Dr. Stollard, Cyna, and Soji. So I wanted to first start off with Masudi.
So what's
So
the question?
So why are we going with the no? Most people went with the yes, that the boyfriend was wrong for not showing up for the wedding.
Well, I'm sure he was just as shocked when he saw the videotape as she probably was about being ghosted. So, based on the information we have, obviously with just this particular paragraph, initially, you want to ask questions, right? Did they have a conversation? What were the quote unquote agreements about the bachelorette party? Did he have a bachelor party? Did they talk about what was allowed prior to the relationship? Excuse me, prior to being married versus what happens after the marriage. So there's a few questions that obviously needs to be asked and concerned that would be nice for us to know. But just based on what is presented, that she did this thing that's on video now, which, as we know now in 2022, it's forever. And he ghosted it. I think that it sounded like he was pretty upset, and sometimes at the end of the day, the best thing to do is when you're that level of anger is just to remove yourself from the situation.
Okay. Okay, we'll go now to Cyna and then we'll come to Soji. Same question.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty warranted. I agree with Soji, like he's hurt. Anyone would, if the shoe was on the other foot, it would be the same thing. I'm just advocating for the I don't know the details. Like, I don't know the exact narrative of was there a prior conversation regarding what's allowed, what's not. I'm pretty sure he didn't sign up for that, just judging by his reaction. But that's just my sentiments. And I think it was definitely warranted for him. Like I said, if the shoe was on the other foot, it would be, she would be entitled to the same reaction, in my opinion.
Okay. Soji.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely agree. From his reaction, it didn't sound like he signed up for that at all. And I'm definitely gonna say too. I think maybe him ghosting, because if I was in that situation, I let the video circle around. I got friends sending me the video, and I actually showed up, and I let it hear a piece of my mind. I'm happy he ghosted. He was better off leaving and not showing up and making the scene and looking stupid himself. Like he had some time to remove himself from the situation, get his thoughts together, whatever the case may be, and like have an actual conversation, not like explode, because that's kind of wild.
Okay. So now we'll go to the people. Well, so everybody thought that the sister was wrong. So there's no debate on that.
I mean, there's a question on why, like, why cheat? If you're the sister,
Yeah,
why did you send the
Yeah.
video? I mean, I'm just saying,
I agree.
why did you send it? If you're the sister, why are you sending the video? There's obviously something deeper as well. Are you at odds? Are you jealous, or what's kind of going on?
Right.
Not that the boyfriend didn't need to know, but there's still something there with that. Are you purposely trying to, quote unquote, mess up somebody's life or the big day?
1,000%. We had that same conversation. Okay, so then let's go to the people that thought that the boyfriend was wrong. We'll start with you, Sheri.
Okay, so I think it was wrong because, first of all, and it says specifically that the sister took the video and sent it directly to the boyfriend. First of all, I don't know how they had this connection, but the fact that he could not, I don't know what their relationship was like, but they should not have been going to the altar if he can't pick up the phone and call her and be like, what is this? Talk to me about this. If there wasn't a communication before, there's not going to be a communication after marriage. So I know the guys on the panel was about like, oh, get out of the situation. Then they weren't talking in the first place. So communication is key in a relationship. If you're walking to the altar, you've already got that communication. Yes, I know some bride, bachelorette and bachelor parties, the couple have communication of like what's allowed, what's not allowed. We don't know the situation with this, whether it was or not. I've been to some bachelorette party where it stays in Vegas. I'm not going to say, but if it's not communicated and communication is not there, then they shouldn't be walking to the altar. But the fact that he could not call his fiance and say, okay, what is this? Your sister sent me this video. Talk to me about this. We discussed this, whatever. He needed to be a man up to it. It happened. Let's talk about it. And then be out. Stop the wedding, whatever. But that's going to be forever open of like what exactly happened if you're not even going to find out what is going on. So the communication was not there. So he should have communicated and be like, look, I'm out. This wedding is over. I saw this video. Boom. The fact that he didn't show up at all seems to be a little sketchy. So, yeah, not buying it.
Okay, Gail, how about you?
Yeah, completely agree with Sheri. I also believe definitely no communication, but I also believe there's something else going on here. There's an undercurrent. Maybe there's some trust issues involved as well. Again, kind of like Sheri said, if he can't communicate at this level, I mean, and yes, this was bad. And I understand, what some of the men have said about, extracting himself from the situation. But, believe me, you're being married for a long time. You're going to come across a whole lot of more things than this that you may need to get through. And if you can't even get through this, and for some people it may be huge, but I think the fact that I think there's some other things going on. I think he may have had some trust issues and just his lack of communication.
Wow.
Okay, we'll go now to Kaylin.
Yes, so I think that he was wrong because I can't think of any circumstance in which it is okay to ghost someone. I understand that it has become the norm in the current way people are dating and doing this or doing that. I was always taught respect is given and earned. At this point, we've been in a relationship. There has been a proposal. We've agreed to spend our lives together. To me, this means that we're communicating fully, but also it means that we're not looking for the easy way out. We're saying that we want to spend the rest of our life together, and to me, that starts from the time that I've agreed to say yes, or the question has been asked, and things will happen. This was clearly a big thing, but the fact that the person that he says he's ready to get married, he's ready to spend his life with someone. This just shows that it wouldn't take much for him to walk away and leave the marriage altogether. And I'm very much like, I'm not myself personally trying to get married just to get divorced. So these are all things I would want to find out before, like, this is the kind of person you are. You're not really trying to work this out for you. It's just like, we come up to a bump in the road and you're out, you've left, whatever the case could be. He didn't ask any questions from what this says. He just didn't show up. And so he doesn't know what happened before and after that video. And so he doesn't have all of the information either. And we all know anything can be fun to have any perspective that you want it to have. And so to me, it's like, this is supposedly the woman you love, the woman you want to marry. Don't you want to dig a little bit deeper just before you like be like, I'm done with you?
Like find out if this was an accident?
Or find out, or I mean, it could very well have been her sister got the stripper,
Masudi.
did this, did that. Anyways, there could have been other factors that we just don't know about. And for him to have just simply ghosted based off what this says, he doesn't really actually know. Anyone could take a 30-second, 10-second video of anything in a moment, and all you can interpret is what you see right there.
Okay. So we'll go now to, because on both sides, right, we had, most of the guys were on the side of saying that they thought that the boyfriend was right, or was okay with what he did. We have Mo, though, who's on the other side of that. So I wanted to get your opinion on this as far as thinking that the boyfriend was also wrong.
Okay, so I feel he was wrong because, communication is really the biggest key of the whole thing. And then trust is the other thing. And without those two, what do you have in a relationship? Pretty much nothing. I felt like that he needed to sit down and talk and find out what was actually going on and how this had conspired. And there's just so many variables that wasn't given, and then why did he actually receive this video? What was the motive behind that? So yeah, I felt like he was wrong.
Okay. So I thought that was a good conversation. We're not going to go too much more into it, but I thank you all for being such good sports on this, because this was an interesting story. And I didn't want to take away from our panel. We're talking about how great you guys are as dads. So we'll now go into celebrating you all. I wanted to thank you all again for being here. Just switching. And now we'll go into our introductions of our panel. I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So I'm going to start with Masudi. So we have on our panel, Dr. Masudi Stolard. I've known him for my sands. How long have we known each other? It's been forever.
It's a lot of numbers.
It's been a long time, right? So he just went to a school, and we were in college. We went to a school just down the street from me, basically. I mean, in Texas terms. But is now married, almost 3 years, and has 2 children, a proud father, and a 1-year-old son. So a new father in that sense, right? And I had asked the gentleman a series of questions prior to, and I told him I would pinpoint what I found interesting, like within the answers that they provided. And so with Masudi, he has a very interesting story that I'm so glad that he's going to share with us about how he actually got married, how he paid for his wedding.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute. So thank you, Phoenyx, for the introduction. My name is Masudi Stolard. I am a consultant. I am an author, and I just released a book, Launching Your Self-Publishing Journey, and we can talk about that later. But I appreciate the question. Yes, I've been married for almost 3 years. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I have a 14-month, 15-month-old son. And it's a whole lot. That's all I can tell you. It's a whole lot, But regarding of how we got married, so I was living in Austin, and my now wife was living in Austin, and we were not living together. And the truth is I did want to marry her, right? And so, but the biggest thing sometimes is just finances, right? Do you have enough money to pay for the wedding and the ring and all this stuff that kind of comes up, And so I end up getting an opportunity to move from Austin to Arlington. And so I thought that would have given me some time. This is in 2019. So I thought I would have gotten some more time to kind of push out this wedding thing. And so the short version is that my wife and I were in a lot of communication about when we're going to get married. Is it going to happen soon? And I'm like, it's coming. I just got to get some things in order, right? I got to get some things in order, some money and so forth. She's like, I love you. I just want to marry you. That's what she says, right? And so I was like, well, the kind of wedding you want to have, it's a little expensive, and I don't know if we can really afford all that. But so the short version is we came across an opportunity to apply for a wedding. And it was one of those opportunities where you submit your name to a church, you write the story about you and your spouse and how long you've been dating and so forth. And the funny thing is this, and so we had to write, and so I'm the one that has the degrees. I'm the one that has the doctoral degrees. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying my wife is like, I'm proofreading her work. She was like, hey, can you look at my resume? I have the right for this paper and so forth. But when it came down to writing the scenario about our relationship, she was like, push me to the side. So you're not doing this right, So that was kind of interesting. So all of a sudden, all my writing degrees and stuff that helped her so far was not qualified to write our love story. And so we submitted this love story, and I was like, okay, great. I submitted this love story. There's like 600 people that applied. I can go about my life. She's going to be appeased. I can work on saving some money, and I don't have to worry about necessarily this wedding anytime soon. And lo and behold, it's an evening. I think it's like a Tuesday evening. I get an email around 7 p.m. that said, guess what? Congratulations. You have been selected to be one of the 6 people out of the 600 people that submitted name to be married. And so that gave you an opportunity to have a free wedding. So they didn't pay for the reception, but they paid for the entire wedding in their church. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience. The one caveat is that you had 7 weeks. So I don't know if any of you are married. As far as putting a wedding together, Phoenyx knows that, we've put all kinds of events together. And usually you have months and months of preparation, times years to prepare. We had 7 weeks. Right. And this is from me, that's like, I'm not even thinking about getting married because I'm like, well, we're not going to get picked. The chance of that happening is like so far and few, but it happened. And so that was it, so 7 weeks, we had to put the wedding together, put the reception together. Both of our families were showed us a lot of love as far as financial donations. I cleaned out my savings. I don't always like to talk about money, but all my savings I had went to the ring and so on and so forth. And so, but we didn't have any debt to the wedding. And I think that's probably one of the blessings for that. So even though it was a short period of time, the chance of us having a free wedding, I didn't see that happening. It happened. At the end of the day, we had a reception and we had a wedding, and we didn't have any debt from that, and it was a beautiful experience. And she was happy. She was even happy. So
I think that's what you call divine intervention.
I think so. I'm a man of God, and I was like, Lord, if I'm really supposed to get married, you're gonna have to handle that, And so how you throw out scriptures like, well, you talk about provision, Lord. Well, if you're gonna want me to get married, obviously you're gonna provide. But you kind of say it sarcastically because you don't really think somebody's really gonna like fund a wedding. And that's exactly, you just need to be funded a wedding. That's all it's gonna take. Well, then this is what happened. And so it was a beautiful thing. It was really a beautiful thing. It was, I loved her. I've known her for a while, and I wanted to marry her. I wanted us to be family. I had met her family. We hung out. She hung with my family. She got along well with my brother. And so I just felt like she was really the one for me. I remember I'll say this short part real quick. I remember, and I just recently told her this, but for a while I hadn't told her this, but I had made a list a long time ago of the things that I wanted in a wife, certain things. And so I remember the list. And sometimes you think about the list, sometimes you don't think about the list because you just kind of go on with life. This is probably years and years and years ago. But then one day, as I am looking here, I'm realizing like, this is all the stuff that I was talking about. One of the things that I wrote down is I wanted someone with a maternal instinct. I wanted somebody who wanted to be a mother. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't really know. So if I understood all about what it takes to be a father, but I wanted somebody who knew something about a mother instinct. And with that, she had a daughter when I met her. And so sometimes this is how God chose to present this, right? So she was already kind of versed in what was going on. So I was able to kind of learn from her and apply those things that she taught me, to our son and to our daughter who's now 14 as well. So.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I love that story. I think that that's amazing. So one of those things where you say, oh, I never win anything. Then you win a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go now to Mo. Oh, I just moved yours. Okay, so we have Mo here, who happens to be Kaylin's brother-in-law. He's joining us from Omaha, Nebraska. Now, this is Mo's second marriage. He has two big boys, a 25-year-old and 26-year-old. And you guys just correct me if I have anything incorrect. 25-year-old and a 26-year-old son. And you've been married now for 7 years, right? The second time.
Yep.
So one of the questions that I asked the gentleman had to do with whether or not they felt that fathers could be nurturing. And so I wanted Mo to elaborate a little more on his answer for this, because what he said was, my exact question was, do you feel fathers can be nurturing? Why or why not? And he said yes, but only to a certain point. I feel our masculinity kicks in and we want to show the child to be tough. So I wanted Mo to elaborate on that a little bit. What does that mean?
Oh, well, masculinity, you can be in your feminine or masculinity. Anybody can have that feature. What I feel like masculine is like, you know what to do, so you go and you're into it, you're doing it. Your feminine is more or less, you're more or less taking information, listening, gathering, and trying to, tweak the plan to, appease everything that's going on. Say like if your child's sick. Sometimes the men tend to want to do things and not listen. And I had a real learning lesson about trying to listen to my child and make sure that I'm being nurturing in a sense that I'm not putting that child in any type of danger or making them feel uncomfortable, because I'm not the mother. And it was a learning lesson for me to sit there and listen and not just actually go, oh well, let's take him to the doctor, give him that medicine, and that's it. And there was no sitting there nurturing the behavior that's going on, things like that.
Okay. So does that mean that you feel like that women are able to listen more? I just want to make sure that I'm hearing.
Women are able to listen more and have a plan after they listen to what's going on. Men, on the other hand, we're all about doing and creating, but we're not about listening to a point to where we have a plan after we hear things.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we're probably going to come back to that.
Okay.
But thank you, Mo. I appreciate that. Okay, now we're going to go to Soji. So Soji is coming to us from Westchester. Also been married about 3 years, right?
Yeah.
A small child. Now, I don't have the age of your, a 2-year-old. You have a 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old?
Yeah, next month will be 2. We share the same birthday too, man. Leo God's out here.
Okay, Leo's in the house. Okay, and he has one on the way as well. So congratulations with that as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
So one of the questions again that I asked is, what is your take on a traditional marriage? And I liked his answer. I wanted him to elaborate on what that meant and then how that worked for he and his wife. So he says, I say whatever works for each individual household just works. I've been a part of, witnessed different types of family and marriage dynamics and have seen wins and losses. that run the gamut. What works for me may not work for others and vice versa. So he had mentioned a lot about teamwork. And so how does that work with you and your wife?
I think like nobody generally has like, I feel like in this society, you know, men are predetermined to do this and women are supposed to do this. Like that's just kind of generally not how it works in my house. It's like where we just kind of look at each other's strengths and we look at each other's weaknesses and we try to meet each other halfway to ensure that, you know, my son Bernard is, you know, he doesn't fall through the cracks of somebody's strength or weakness. So, you know, for example, my wife, she's terrible at getting up late at night, right? So she needs her 8 hours of sleep or she's going to get out and kill somebody. So I remember in the early years of raising her, I was getting up, I'm working full time from home. I'm getting up 3 or 4 times a night and then going to work at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it just was a thing for me. Popping up at night was something that came easy to me. Cooking, I'm terrible at that. So my wife jumps in and takes that, right? Like, and it's just, I feel like as opposed to just having these roles that, you know, men are supposed to be the general kind of archetypes that pop up when we just kind of hear women cook and clean, and that's how it should be. Men should be the home bearers who can't sit and have a conversation with their kid or can't sit and empathize and hold their kid and change a diaper. Like I just feel like for me, just especially being like a first time dad, like I love being a father. I wanted my hands on every aspect of the job. I wanted to change every diaper. I wanted to beat her to figure out, you know, write things down to see what this kid liked, what he didn't like, and try to figure out patterns. And so for me, it was just kind of like we look at each other and we're just like, we genuinely like, this is how we want to raise a kid who goes out into society. He's a high energy kid with an amazing personality, even at this young age. And when you leave your household, everyone else is trying to tell you how to live, you know, what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be smart, what it means to be creative. And we just want to raise a kid who can walk out into the world and like write his own story. So, you know, for us, that may be like, I grew up in a household, my parents, they split at 12. And, you know, I had a dad who was like, yo, you're crying, you're weak, get out of here, don't cry. So when I first was in my relationship, it was a struggle to even converse and talk about stuff. I get into arguments, I have to write it down on my phone and slide it to my wife because I couldn't talk. I was in the side. I grew up in the area too. I grew up in the projects in the Bronx. It was like, you can't, if something goes wrong, get over it. Let's move on. Let's figure it out. And in my house, so I wanted to have the time, and I try to take a little bit more time to sit down. If he's having a tantrum, like try and talk him through it, as opposed to just, you know, pick him up, grab him, throw him to the next thing. So I want to do that differently than how it happened in my household and how I was taught and I was raised, because that didn't allow me to effectively emotionally be fully present. And I've even had to, you know, learn and kind of unwire some of that stuff that was kind of trained into me when I was younger. So I'm kind of trying to break the scheme in my household of what it means to be strong, or what it means to be tough, or what it means to be, you know, just I guess emotionally available and like mentally available, right? Like, so I just feel like in different dynamics, different, like in my household, we split it 50-50. Maybe in another household, the mother does do all that stuff, and the holding, the dad just does the providing. Like, you know, my wife, her dad worked 80 to 120 hours, like a crazy work schedule, and just was never home, but he provided financially. So he was able to put her through college. She doesn't have any debt from that. And like different things like that. Like we want to get a house. He saved up money for a down payment in addition to what we're putting on to get there. So there was that's a cool aspect in her house that it worked, right? Like she's still kind of, there's other things she's dealing with around that relationship of her dad not being around at other events and not being there, but he was there financially. So every household and every situation is different. And I kind of think that, you know, once again, like it worked in terms of the financial aspect, but in terms of their connection, maybe that's a little off. Like there's always something that may suffer for something else to thrive. And I just kind of think like you kind of step back and just say, what's the best case scenario in my situation? And what allows me and my partner to show up to do this amazing task of raising a kid to the best of our abilities, and allow us to do it consistently. And we go with that.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I'm going to put out a question, but then I'll wait because I'm going to go to Rob. But I wanted to know, when you talk about the emotional aspect of it, is this something that you acquired during, like when you first started dating your wife, or was this something that you worked on before when you actually sort of acknowledge that this is something that I need to be more in touch with as far as being more present and that kind of thing? Because I think that's interesting.
Definitely, it was definitely post. Honestly, like I used to come into conversations super defensive about stuff, and
Got
she
it.
made me kind of take a step back and say, if you're always right, there's something wrong with that, and just
Mm.
like kind of take a step back and be vulnerable, and to be able to say like, all these things that I was scared to talk about, because it just, in my household growing up or where I grew up, it was, you didn't do it. Like, she created a safe space for me to be able to articulate myself better, and understand that, if this comes out of my mouth, the world's not going to end, and I'm going to actually feel better. You know what I mean? And just
Right.
because, if something bothers me, let somebody know as it bothers me, as opposed to just letting the stuff build up and then having an explosion later on. So she really kind of helped me a ton, and like, I just, just to get into therapy, and like, that's all stuff that wasn't in my house, so you didn't do it. It just didn't happen. So
Great.
she's changed my life for the better a lot in that aspect. So
That's amazing.
a
That
lot
is
of other
great.
aspects too, but
Yeah. And you hear that, ladies? He said safe space. I was like, oh, look at that. That's great. Okay. We'll go now to Rob. Thank you so much for joining us, Rob. So Rob is also in Texas. Also someone that I've known a very long time, and a frat brother of mine as well. So he was married. He's our only divorcee here. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a divorcee as well. So, but I wanted to have a diverse sort of panel here so that we would have some other feedback from a different perspective. He was married 18 years and has 3 children. And again, the same question that I asked about traditional marriage. I don't know if I mentioned that. I asked what your take was on traditional marriage, and Rob gave me an example of his parents who have been married for 51 years. And said that they exemplified what marriage should be. So I wanted him to expand on that, like as far as what that meant. Like, what was it that exemplified that, the longevity of it, or what he saw as traditional marriage and what that meant? You're muted, Rob.
When I say they exemplified it, when there were problems, they worked it out. It wasn't one of those where, for lack of a better term, I have issues when folks say, we're arguing, so I'm going to sleep on the sofa. There was none of that. They didn't argue in front of the kids, but you can't be in a relationship or in a marriage and not have disagreements. Whatever came and whatever issues came up, they worked it out. And again, when my mom passed away, they were married 51 years. They were still holding hands when they walked across the parking lot. My dad opened doors for her. My mom, we had 5 boys and 2 girls. And my mom never took out trash. She never opened her own door. She never carried anything. It was, he taught me the way my dad treated my mom, taught me how to treat my wife. And it was, there were certain things that she was supposed to do, certain things that I was supposed to do. Not like the traditional cooking and cleaning type things. Because I'm from South Louisiana. I cook. I'll cook every day if I have to, but because I enjoy cooking. But as far as like mowing grass and changing oil and taking out garbage, the dirty things, no, she ain't doing that. That's for me to do. And those are the things that I learned from my dad. My mom never touched trash in her life. Whether he took it out or me or one of my brothers did it, then that's the way it was supposed to be. If there was something she needed, we took care of it. That's just the way from watching him do what he did. The only thing that I kind of learned not to do from my dad is my dad worked 4 jobs. I'm kind of like what the other guy was saying, that his dad, he was there. I was 22 years old before my father actually watched me in a sports event. I used to fight Taekwondo, and he came to one of my tournaments, and I was like a 12-year-old when I saw my daddy in the audience, and I was a grown dude, and it was touching, because through all those years He was always working. He was always providing. I had what I needed, but he wasn't there. And that's something that I missed. And from that, I learned that I needed to be there for my kids. I needed for them to actually see me, not just know that the bills are paid and you got food to eat and somewhere to lay your head. They needed to actually see you at parent-teacher conferences, they need to see you at recitals and basketball games or football games or track meets or whatever the hell it was. They needed to actually see me.
Thank you for that, Rob. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna open it up. I know that was really brief, but I appreciate each of you opening up your lives and sharing your stories with us. I'm gonna open it up to the ladies and to the panel to see if they have any additional questions that they would like to ask, and I'll start with Sheri.
I would have a question, but I just definitely agree with Rob. My father, my mom really never, he took care of everything. Like the same thing, opened up the doors, like whatever she needed, he provided, but also he taught my brothers, just like, this is how you treat a lady, this is how you treat your wife, and he taught us, like, this is the type of man you should be with, right? The respect, the mutual respect, all right, in the relationship. And I can always remember that. And and also too, if 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 we were to do something, he's like, did you talk to your mother? What did she say? And I'm just like, well, she said no. Then it's no. Then it's no. He wasn't getting in the middle of things because he knew she ultimately was the law. So it's just the relationship they had was just beautiful, and that's always like a life goal for me. So definitely what Rob was saying really resonated with me.
Yeah, actually, I agree, Rob. I was brought up in a traditional family as well. My dad worked 3 jobs. My mother never worked. My mother, outside of the home, there was 6 kids. She took care of everything that was at home while he was working. She never wanted for anything. And honestly, truthfully, when I actually was looking for a husband, I was looking for a man exactly like my father, because he was a great provider. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was a great provider and he was a great father. So my marriage actually started out very, very traditional, where, my husband, he was a breadwinner. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then eventually, I wanted to, get a job and that whole thing, and, my career, and go back to school. And, and I was a little nervous about that because, me marrying a man that, kind of like, he did everything, and then finally, we decided that, he goes, Gail, he goes, if that's what you want to do, then let's do this, So the key is really keeping communication open in a marriage. And I did learn that from my mom and dad. They talked about everything. So, yeah, I can relate to you, Rob. Absolutely.
Thanks, gentlemen, for sharing all of your stories. I really did take something from each of you. I come from a non-traditional home, single mom, but still can appreciate like what you gentlemen shared, especially Soji, when you were talking about how you're literally highlighting the negative and the positive that your wife's relationship she had with her father, and how that is like now transcended like into your relationship. I thought that was like really, really, really beautiful. And to you, Rob, how, your father not being present, literally made you become present. And that's something that I was fortunate enough to see from my brothers. Like I kind of share that. Well, they kind of share that aspect because they're super, super present. So definitely beautiful stories from each of you. So thank you. Thank you.
So I'll kind of ask a general question because Rob, you kind of mentioned it earlier as far as you thinking about what it was that, like, how your father wasn't present and how you wanted to make sure that you were present for your children. So I wanted to kind of pose that question to the rest of you. Is there anything that you acquired from or that you grew up with your father that you thought about before having your own children and thought, I want to definitely make sure that I don't do this, or I want to change this? And anyone can answer.
Well, I grew up without my dad in the house. I mean, I had him, I think the first 5 years or so. We have since rekindled and done well. And, I guess from that, growing up, not knowing all the details, I know that I wanted to make sure that I was present in my children's life. But one thing I'll say, though, and sometimes I think this kind of stuff is missed, is that, so I was doing something with my birth certificate. I looked at my birth certificate and I realized that my parents, when I was born, were like 20 and 22, right? And so that kind of shed a light of like, well, how much did we know at 20 years old or 22 years old, And so sometimes we think our parents, sometimes we blame them or we say, hey, I can't believe you made XYZ decision. But in that moment, I realized they were kind of young when they had me and they were kind of doing the best they can, And so they were married, and they eventually did get divorced. And my dad has since been remarried, And so I grew up sometimes being a little indifferent about my father, mainly because of how my mom spoke about my dad. But as I got older, when I got to actually hear my father's side, it gave me a different perspective, It gave me a perspective of that I still love my mother. My mom is still an amazing person, She has definitely done more for me than any other person on this earth. But, what I learned was that my dad did try to call me when I was a child, right? When you're a child, all you hear is that your father's not calling you, But what the truth is, my dad is calling to speak to us, but she's got to go through my mom, right? So if mom is not in a good mood, or they're having challenges, whatever that may be, as we as adults have been in relationships, married or otherwise, you sometimes you're not getting along with that person for whatever the reason may be, right? Is it always a friendly conversation? Not necessarily. So as an adult, I realized that, okay, it's maybe not, it's definitely more gray than it is just more black and white, And so, but all that to say is that I wanted to make sure that I was definitely present in my kid's life, regardless of what was going on. And so, yeah.
I would also have the point of being present. So that's my dad as well. My parents split at 12, and my dad was always in the picture. But
Right.
Just things like going to games, or none of my parents actually were at any games. I played in high school, I played in college, and that's a big piece to me now. My business, I run it remotely, and I love, one of my favorite parts is leaving that block of my day open to head in and grab my son from daycare and pick him up personally and see him go crazy when he sees me at the door, flipping over chairs,
man.
Dad, like that is one of the best feelings in the world. Like,
It is.
my dad's here, and all the kids run. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. Like, and just another point I totally agree with is just the idea of like, I spoke a lot of very indifferently about my dad for a while too, and the aspect of everyone is doing, at least I feel that everyone is doing the best they can with the knowledge they have at that time. And that's definitely a aspect I'm gonna, hopefully not in a traumatic way, but I think I'm gonna impact him. I want to do it completely positive, but there may be something I mess up with my son, and I just hope that he understands this one day, that I try to forgive and do the same for my father and my parents. So I love your points, brother, and I totally agree.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Today, I picked up my son today, Soji, and I dropped. So we just started putting him in a daycare for like the last 2-3 weeks. Which has been good for me to give me time. And for the most part, he's adjusted. But today, when I dropped him off this morning, he was just upset. And I was reaching through the bag, trying to get his bottles, and he just started crying. I'm like, you crying today? Like, he was leaning back towards me and so forth, And so today, when I came to pick him up, they put him down, and once they point towards me, towards the door, and he started running towards me, And it's that feeling, boy, I tell you, man, that's it right there. That's it right there. So yeah, man.
The funny thing with what you guys said is, even though I learned a lot of things on how to treat my wife from watching my dad with my mom, the fact that he was in the house but not there,
Right.
gave me kind of the same feeling toward him that you guys had. I was kind of indifferent toward him because it was like mom was there for everything. I mean, yeah, he lived there, but when I woke up, he was gone to work. When I went to bed, he still hadn't got home from work.
Right.
You know, and the only time I actually really saw him was like on Sundays, and he's a pastor, so I still didn't get his attention. At about 25, after I was married, him and my mom came to visit and here in Dallas, and we actually sat down and we talked. I actually told him I said I hated you until I was like 20, and you know, he explained some things about how his dad wasn't there. He didn't know. All he knew how to do was be a provider. We cried, we hugged it out, and you know, everything's cool now. But it was kind of like what you said, Masudi. You have to realize that at their age, with their life experience, what they knew. And without having a father in his life, he didn't know how to be a father. All he knew was, I need to pay these bills. I need to feed these kids. I need to pay this mortgage.
Right.
He didn't know I need to go to these basketball games or football games or, you know, recitals or whatever else. All he knew was, I need to pay for all this stuff, you know. And you know, my mom never worked. I mean, hell, she sold Avon every once in a while, but that wasn't
right.
You know, she had 7 kids, so there wasn't like, you know, by the time, you know, you pay daycare for 7 kids, what you working for?
Yeah, that's a fact, Rob.
That's some stacks right there, man. Whew. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on mute.
We'll go to Mo. Did you have anything to add to that?
I agree with all those gentlemen. I just wanted to make sure I was present with my child and that we had a decent relationship. Gosh, my father wasn't available. I had a stepfather growing up. He wasn't the most perfect guy, but he showed me how to treat women and pretty much, you know, survive and, you know, make sure that I was providing.
Okay. And so I'm hearing a lot of the same sentiment. So I'm glad that you all are here. This is part of the process, right? Because when people hear stories like this, then they're able to say, well, yeah, we can make this different. You don't have to keep repeating the cycle over and over again. It's just like you're saying, you know, they're repeating what it is that they've seen or what they've grown up with, you know. And I think that that's an amazing story, Rob, for you to share that and to say that you were actually able to talk that out and cry that out, because that's important. It's important because a lot of times it's just like you all are saying, and when we're all children, you don't know, like you just see this person or don't see this person that is or isn't there and don't have an explanation for that. And of course you make up your own. And most of the time it's just, this person doesn't love me. They're not here. They're not present. Why aren't they here? You know, and you grow up with that and then don't know how to deal with that when you have your own children. But I applaud all of you for being able to recognize that and to make that different. You know, that's why you're here. And that's why we're able to say, oh, look at these great guys. And we want to make sure that people see these stories and not just all of these other stories where people are very negative and saying that that fathers are not there for their kids. We're a little bit over on time. So I want to respect the time of our audience and respect you guys' time as well. And also, though, wanted to give an opportunity because we are all part of small businesses. So wanted to give you the opportunity to make any plugs or to have, if you have any YouTube channels or whatever that people can view you. Like people don't know what you do. So we'll start with Masudi.
Again, thank y'all for having me. This was a great discussion. I told Phoenyx I was a little concerned because sometimes when they ask men to come on a panel, it's usually a gotcha. they invite you and they say, we got you. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you call? You know, I thought we had a good time, you know? So I definitely appreciate the conversation and different opinions and so forth. And the stories were really interesting too. So, and thank you for the opportunity to just to plug. So my name is Masudi or Dr. Masudi Stolard. I am consultant. I am an educator. I'm also an author. And so I just co-wrote a book. This is book 5 for me. But the name of the book is Launch Your Self-Publishing Journey. It's the busy author's guide to write, publish, and sell your book fast. So if you're a person that is wanting to, maybe you've written a book and not sure what to do next, or you have goals as far as like you want to write but not sure how to start, this actually is the book for you. I wrote this with Sora of mine, Dr. Monica Anderson. She's between the two of us, we've written 12 books together, and we felt this was an opportunity time for just to kind of put it in there for just, and it's really just $4. It's not even that hard. We're not even trying to make a ton of money. We really just want to get the information out there, so forth. So you can actually go to Amazon and you can type in M Stolard. You can go to my website, which is MSTOLARD like David.com. The link is right there in front of you. And then you can just purchase the book if you like. And again, it's just $4. I'm not even trying to say the price. It's just that we want to let you know that we're not trying to make a ton of money. We just want to get this information out there. We think it's beautiful. That can be beneficial for a lot of you. So thank you.
Thank you. We're going on a Mo.
Well, I thank you guys for having me on there. This is my first time. So excuse me for being nervous and quiet, but
You killed it, bro.
thank you.
Well, and we appreciate you being here. We couldn't even tell you were nervous.
Well, you're a veteran, man. You good, man. I need a handbook how to raise those kids. You said 25 and a 26-year-old. Can I get the book on that, please, sir?
I'll have to write the book. It's been quite the journey. I work on cars on the side, and I've also taught them, so many things about, getting into the cars and wiring and, all that good stuff. But it's been a journey.
Well, good. See, so then you can just purchase Dr. Stolard's book on how to write a book. And then when you write your book, he can buy your book.
I'm gonna definitely look him up.
Yeah, definitely. We need to connect for sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Rob, we'll go now to you.
All right, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the time. When Melina and I met, I was mentoring young people, and I've done that for the past 20 some odd years, both as a youth pastor and working through the Sigma Beta Club with Phi Beta Sigma. But I also am a firearms instructor, and I do voiceover work. The name of my company is The Guy's Voice. So if you have commercials, audiobooks, so forth, give me a holler. If you want to learn about how to use a firearm, what firearm's good for you, the lies that the media is telling you about firearms, give me a holler. Hey, I have a wealth of information that I'd like to share. I might be hitting you up, Masudi, about writing a book soon. Thanks.
Got you covered.
That's 2 books, Masudi. I want kickback on that.
Okay, I got you. You can get you 10% off $4. That's like 80 cents. You got it.
Listen, those pennies add up. They add up. Last but not least, Soji, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, fellas. It was awesome to share the space with you and hear your amazing stories. As moved in, ladies, thank you so much for your amazing insight, and thank you for giving us the platform to share our stories. I'm a strength and conditioning coach in the wellness space online, and I basically I use wellness as a tool to help people regain their autonomy in their lives, right? I feel like you walk into the world, as I was saying earlier, about with my son, like you walk into the world and people tell you what it means to be strong, what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be successful. And I kind of like using wellness or, the habits built around that, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's meditation, whether it's gratitude journaling. But those habits, I like to help people kind of take the pen and write their own story. And if you're an individual who is, done with like the typical kind of fitness, like the yo-yo dieting, the lose weight fast, and you're looking for something sustainable, or you're looking for a change that might be a little bit deeper, then, give me a follow. I'm on Instagram at Soji, SOJI.James1. And I'd love to connect with you. And once again, I appreciate the space. Thank you so much.
You got
Thank
the
you,
secret on
Soji.
how to get a washboard in like 14 days, right, Soji? You said
14
14 days. We can get a
I
washboard.
definitely ain't sell- definitely not 14 days, man. But you feel me? That ain't happening. But I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? If y'all in for the long term, come on, I'll let you boy. And definitely author wise, I'm gonna have to pick that book up too, because that's definitely on my lifetime achievement list. And I love your energy, Masudi. I love your knowledge. I love your perspective. So it's been awesome, as I said, to connect with my fellow fellas, man. I'm definitely scooping a copy.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You heard that, Masudi, right? That's 3.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the third. You feel me?
$1.20.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
$1.20 in royalties. I got you.
I'm just
She's a
saying.
affiliate now.
Yeah.
I appreciate you all. I don't want this to be the last time. I love this energy. I love the positive conversation. So let's definitely do this again, maybe on some different topics and stuff, related to male and female. This is what helps us to get to know each other even better and to communicate better. That was something that resonated through all of what it was that we were talking about before, as far as communication, and we can't learn how to better communicate unless we're actually talking. So I appreciate each of you coming here and sharing this platform with us.
Thank you.
Thank
for having
you.
us. So since we
Yes.
should do this
Thank
again,
you.
is this before the summer? We're gonna do this before the summer ends. We're gonna do this in the fall. I mean,
would
you say
love
we're
that.
doing it again. I'm just trying to, get a
Yeah,
time
he needs to
frame.
gauge his calendar.
Because he's going to be busy because he's selling so many books.
Exactly.
Right.
Soon,
I got
for
your duffel
sure.
bag of royalties coming. And I wrote everybody's name down, so I'm gonna try to follow all of y'all on social media. I don't know if y'all on Instagram or and so forth. So, but yeah, so I'll
Same.
definitely be reaching out on the DMs and all that. So,
Most definitely.
All right.
Check out your
Thank you
book,
so
okay?
much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Good night. Good
Appreciate
night.
it.
Awesome night.
Thanks. All right.
Night,
Have a good
everyone.
night. See y'all.